welcome back to the channel. Quick overview of the desk. This is my home lab. Some people go for bigger and better, but as they say, necessity is the mother of all invention, and as a result, I've gotten my entire home lab squeezed down into one desk. Let's start with the networking. So down there you see an RB2011. That one rack unit is capable of housing 4 RB5009s. That isn't exactly what I'm going for as the end goal, but I'm just going to start out with one and see what happens. Second unit is a rack mount patch panel with some fiber optic pass-throughs that you're seeing right there. And the third unit is a CRS309. It's an 8-port SFP plus switch, and I've had it for a long time. It served me pretty well. As you guys can see, we've got some headphones mounted here. And then we have some things that I've covered in earlier videos. 2 USB hubs that connect everything. 1 PDU that powers everything. And in there we have a USB-C charger for the Thunderbolt hubs and a USB-A hub, for power. Now, before this, I don't think these were connected up quite the same way. Now, you can see that the laptop has one USB-C port hooked up that feeds it power and networking, and it allows it to feed back data for the first 4K display. Generally, when I'm working, this display is controlled by the first laptop, and this display is controlled by my work laptop. Then we have the desktop. I wish I could tear it down, but both my hands are occupied right now. If you take a look at the arms, there are 3 of them. We have one here holding one camera and a light. We have one here holding the main camera and a light and a mic arm. All of them are using Arca mounts. If I wanted to, I could very easily just unplug that microphone. As you can see here, it's on an extension cable, making it very convenient. Doesn't matter what the situation is, I can swap this with that and vice versa. I can put any of them just about anywhere. The only special one is the camera arm. So if you take a look here, the camera arm's a little bit spicy. We have one pure power cable that comes off a charger. Then we have a HDMI that goes to a capture card and a dummy battery that feeds off of another USB-C. We also have a USB for data, should I ever need it. Mostly for remote management. Here it's a similar situation again to the mic arm. We have a USB right there, except this one connects my headset microphone currently. Okay, so that gets to the back, which is where everything's hooked up. You have those 2 Thunderbolt docks that feed the laptops everything they need over a single USB-C cable. And probably the most unsung hero here is the cable raceway. Now, a good life hack for cable raceways, don't get the fancy stuff you see YouTube reviewers like show off. There's a reason just about every office has these. If you want to mount it like this, there's an issue you'll have to keep in mind, which is the cables will just fall out when you pull out the raceway. And also, you might be tempted to pull off the raceway by sliding it left or right. It's very impractical. What you need to do is pull it forward and then down, and it'll just slip right off. In order to hold the cables there before slipping the bottom of the raceway off, put in pencils. Use the pencils. By putting them in here, you can use them to hold the cables up, And just putting in just, let's say 5 or 6 on this 2-meter raceway will hold all the cables up, and I can take the entire raceway down, do all the messing I need to, and then put it back up again. Makes it very convenient. It's not gonna be, a walk in the park, but very convenient, and it looks very neat. Now, down here, we have something interesting. So that's a 24-volt power supply. This feeds the networking stack and my sound system. And I will be duplicating this with a 12-volt power supply to feed the USB hubs and some other pieces here and there. Now, a lot of cables go down that raceway. If you take a look over here, just about, I think there are 8 Ethernet cables and 4 SFP, not SFP, fiber optic cables that run down here that terminate into SFP+. So I'm gonna focus on the desk for now. I'm gonna leave a server for the end, but this just makes it easier to work. If anything goes wrong with my desktop/server, I unplug the 2 USB-A cables that go to the hub, and I plug it into my laptop, and I'm back in action. If anything goes wrong with anything here, it's fairly modular, and at the same time gives me all the creature comforts that I had in my previously more expansive home lab. All of them right here. Okay, so that just about covers it. I think the last thing to mention here is the KVM. Rather, it's just a KM. No video for this one. It just does keyboard and mouse, and it lets me switch between all these devices very simply. The desktop/server. This is where things get interesting. So, here we have a Fantex P600S. This is already removed because I am constantly working on it. I have managed to squeeze in a 420mm radiator, 8 3.5-inch drives, and of course the 3 140mm fans you see in front of you, along with a 140mm exhaust fan. I've managed to squeeze all that into the profile of a regular desktop. That didn't come easy. If I turn this to the side, as you can see, the CPU block of the EPIC system and the ITX AM4 system are both water-cooled. And it was complicated. It was very complicated. There's going to be a lot of information that I could give on this. I went through a lot with trying to get this up and running, and in this week alone I've reassembled it 3 times, and the situation that I've landed on isn't perfect, but it lets me use all 8 3.5-inch bays, which I plan on fully populating. As you can probably tell, the PCI X16 slots on this system are fully populated. This is an ASRock EPIC D8. I think it's a great board. I have an issue with mine because it's an older board and it's been through quite a bit. It only powers on when the capacitors are fully drained and then charged up initially. So I have to fully power off the system and then hit the power button for it to start up. There's an issue with old motherboards. It happens. It's unfortunate, but keep in mind this server board cost me about $200, so it comes with the territory. Now, the upper system, I'll just quickly go through the specifications. We have a 5900X, undervolted to minus 30 on curve optimizer. It will hit 4.8 gigahertz and sit there relatively comfortably. The idle temperatures are around 40 Celsius with the fans on low. I think if I remember correctly, it's like 42, 43. And I've got two 16 gig sticks in there. Everything's pretty normal. It's just normal. The Epic system is a lot fancier. I'm not going to go into the specs on this stuff just because the point is more so fully utilizing the hardware that you have rather than, you know, the usual. I personally find it a little bit cringe of let's put hardcore equipment into silly situations. This is a case that can do a lot and people take that for granted, and that's fine. But for anybody who wants to do a little bit more with it, I just like to show what can be done. If you take a look up here, you'll see that my radiator is mounted incorrectly. Now I say that with an asterisk because there's no real incorrect way to mount a radiator, but really the hoses should be at the bottom, and that's to prevent the pumps from starving. The reason it's mounted like this is because if mounted arguably the correct way for the radiator and the pump system, it does not allow correct tolerances for me to put in the top 140 millimeter fan. And it also removes the ability for me to put in that bottom 2 3.5 inch bays. So I decided to spend hours filling this up to the last drop so the pump wouldn't starve. And that was, it wasn't easy. It definitely wasn't easy. Okay, so all the PCI slots are filled. Soon all the drive bays will be filled, and this will be, to quote Wendell, or to paraphrase Wendell from Level 1 Techs, the ultimate cattle. Here we have the fan solution. As you probably guessed, it's a little bit tricky trying to control fans between two systems. It would be wonderful if you could use perhaps a Raspberry Pi of some kind, or Pi Zero, and just feed in the temperature data into that, whether it's cabin temperature, or just better yet, if you were to feed in the PSU data and use that as PSU data plus air temperature, ambient air temperature data plus internal air temperature data should be all the data you need in order to accurately control these fans without human intervention. However, there's a simple solution that already exists thanks to Fantex, and that is this manual air control, manual fan controller. Now this does have the option of being used. Why won't this focus? This does have the option of being used. Lord have mercy. This does have the option of being used with a PWM header, and then it'll just default to its normal state with it, which is medium, which is fine. So using a knock to a low noise adapter for the 3 front fans. This is maximum. Relatively quiet. It's much louder without the low noise adapter. I did not put a low noise adapter on the rear fan because obviously the RPM on that should be high. And this is minimum. There were some minor grievances that I have with Fantex. Very minor. I love this case. I have bought this case twice, and I have recommended it for three builds, 2 of which I've done myself. So overall, 5 times with this case, and I can't think of a suitable replacement for it. There's something about it not being ostentatious and at the same time very good looking. Now I know I'm saying this without the front panel on. There's a level of irony there, but having it be able to do all this in a regular desktop chassis, that is absolutely mind-blowing. But I do have minor grievances. Underneath this spot here, there is a fan fill slot, sorry, a radiator fill slot. But it's in the wrong location. Not quite the wrong location, but it's not big enough. Like, it's based on the location of the fan grill here and so on. It's too far to the right. So it's a little bit of oversight there. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not really for that, but it seemed to line up almost correctly with the radiator fill port. So if they had just moved that a little to the left and made it slightly wider, it would have been perfect. Absolutely perfect. Another issue that I have is that the front grille, I've already made some modifications to it, but if you take a look down below, let's see. If you take a look down below, you can see I've made some modifications here. You have a little bit of white. I had to snip some plastic off here and there in order to make things fit. And now it appears in order to have my 420 millimeter fully populated radiator, I need to cut away this. I don't understand why this is up so high in the first place. That could have been dropped by another, like, let's say, sorry, camera's not facing the right way. That could have been dropped by another 20 millimeters and it would have been fine. Minor oversight there. There's also if you take a look there, you can see a little bit of the PCB there. That is, that's courtesy of yours truly. I had to cut away a lot of plastic in order to make that fan fit. I think this is something that, like, that could have been a little bit higher. Just a little bit. I understand the design that they were going for, and it's a great design. I love it. This is the 99th percentile. Most people aren't going to have these issues, but, you know, they could have adjusted ever so slightly. And yeah, there's other bits here and there, but mostly, this is the perfect case for this. It looks like a normal computer case. Now, at the back, you'll find that 4 of the Ethernet ports are used on this desktop system. And soon, there will be an additional 3 SFP plus connections used on the back of this system. 1 for my desktop and 2 for the server. Now, those are currently just dropped back there. The current router is an Amazon Eero. The Eero is too simple. It's too simple a user interface, and that's for better or worse. I think for normal people, that's fantastic. But for someone who's doing Homelab things in the slightest, the only thing you're going to get is the ability to set your subnet and manually set IP addresses or reserve IP addresses. That's just about it. That's a little unfortunate. The hardware is good. The Wi-Fi is good on that thing. It does have ad blocking features. I don't recommend paying for anything with a subscription on this. Do not pay for any subscription-based features. Don't do it. It's bad for everybody because it encourages them to hide features behind paywalls. You can get ad blocking without that. Okay, So let's have a think. I've covered just about everything here. It's all relatively cohesive. The only thing that I have project-wise in the future is getting the networking up and going, and that constitutes of the RB5009 plus hooking up my desktop over USB-C or a Thunderbolt adapter to an SFP Plus module. And that's about it. I think that that would put it into the state of done. I don't think it'll ever be finished, but I'll be done adding things to it. I can go from working on it to working with it. Okay, that's about it. Thanks everyone for checking out this video. 20 minutes. It's a good long video. Hope you enjoyed it. Come back for more. Take care.